Hey, besties and bosses. All right, we're gonna try this again. I'm upstate. I think we're in the middle of a snowstorm. So I was just in the middle of chatting with y'all and we got kicked off, interrupted. So I think I know exactly where it kicked off. I apologize because I know I had a few of you live. So hopefully this will pick back up with you all, and with the replays, I will make sure you're watching now or later. I'm just setting up. I'm on my phone on cellular. I just want to make sure I'm set up here in a way where y'all can actually see me, but I will make sure we link to the first part if you're catching up for the replay later, or I will link to this part if you're catching up on the other side. So I'll make sure I link us all up, and I apologize if that happened, but that's what happens sometimes with tech. Okay, so where I left off, and hopefully this will pop up for you all, and I'll get some of you back on because I love hanging with you and I want to hear your questions. So where I left off, and I think what I was sharing was and hey, whoever's hopping back on, we got kicked off with power completely went off out here. So I'm using the cellular data on my phone. We got it working, but this is, I guess, what we've got country living. So yes, I am back. Thank you all for finding me and being back. Hey, Laura, hi. Hi, I'm back. We got, hey, Stephanie, yay, nice to have you live. Thank you all for finding me when I came back live. Tech in the country is always a fun thing. So I think where I left off, Heather says much better signal now. Yay. Okay, that's exciting. Good to know when I'm up here next time I'm up at my parents' that I will have to make sure I use the cellular data instead of the computer. So, and it seems like Facebook's not kicking me off. The reason we use Zoom is it often kicks me off. So I think where I left off, and then we'll dive into those two secrets, but I think where I left off and what I was talking about is what I find happens so often, whether you're selling one-on-one or if you're having a launch or if you're selling a group program, whatever that is. I find a lot of times what trips people up with sales and where objections can feel super crunchy, and a lot of, I call it old school sales tactics, but just other sales tactics. I find when we think about sales, it's really looking at sales as the point of transaction. So just when you're asking someone to buy as really the sales process, instead of thinking about sales as a process with a front end, a sales, where you're having that transaction and a back end, which is all with the objection of really helping someone to get clear on what it is they want and to make that clear, informed, empowered decision. So I think when we can look at, instead of sales as just that point of transaction and navigating and overcoming objections only when you're like, do you want to buy? Do you not want to buy? Because that gets kind of crunchy, right? And instead of looking at it more protracted, then we can start to look at, oh, well, what is the front end of your sales process? For most of you, that's going to be relationship building of some kind. For us in the online space, it's often content. I have plenty of clients who, believe it or not, are in the offline space and aren't always using content. So I think there are other ways you can have that front end of your sales process not in content. But what we're talking about here today is how to really use your content in that front end of your sales process, and specifically how to start to address objections in your content before you ever get on the phone with someone. Because again, if you can start to build those relationships and nurture people and start to look at your content as a part of your sales process and not just, and I'm here sharing value. I am all about sharing value in your content, but I think you can start to be really strategic and see this isn't just a piece of value. The way content becomes content marketing that's really strategically tied to that goal and that helps you build that relationship, that helps someone make that decision to move towards buying what you're selling, is to really think strategically about your content and see it as a vehicle to, yes, build those relationships, yes, share that value, but also sell through your content. Let me know if this is making sense, y'all. So the two secrets here. So I think we want to just dive into those two things. I think there's plenty of ways you can do this, but I want to share two ways and really walk you through like the way I think about this and just some specific ways you can start to do this in your content, because this is such a game changer. I'm seeing with one of my clients who it seems like she blew up overnight. She's been in the online space for a while, but we started working together and I want to say within 6 weeks, she was hitting 13, 15K months. Part of the reason for that is we've obviously talked mindset, because that's a lot of what we do, but we also really strategically looked at her content and starting to very specifically look at how are we selling through her content and addressing objections ahead of time. So the first way I want to talk about this, and one of the secrets, and I'm calling it a secret, there are no secrets, but one of the secrets my clients know and what we talk about is really understanding where objections come from and understanding that when someone has an objection, if we're helping them get clear on what they want, right? the objection is generally going to be either because they don't trust what you offer, they don't understand what you offer, they don't get it, right? They don't trust you in some way, they don't trust the offer in some way, or they don't trust themselves in some way. So something like, shout out to my coach, Lacey Seitz, this is something she talks about a lot, and it's really helpful to see. Like, that's why people don't buy, that's also why people have objections. What I think is so easy for us on the selling side is to get wrapped around the surface level story someone tells you as an objection, instead of why is someone really having an objection. It generally tends to come from one of these two places. They don't get what the heck you're selling, they don't trust you, or they don't trust themselves. If you understand this, this is something you can start to very intentionally apply to your content and start to think about, so that you're building that trust with your audience, and you're building that trust with your audience in those two ways. How can you show up in your content and start to build trust intentionally around your offer and around what you sell and around essentially you? For many of you, you're service providers, so you're selling yourself, which always sounds funny, but you're selling your services. And so one thing we want to think about in content, if we think about where these objections coming from, is how can you sell yourself, your offer, your work, you more in your content? I think sometimes when we write content, it's really easy. Oh, I have a water bottle here. Let's say I was going to write a piece of content for Smart Water. It'd be really easy for me just to write a piece of content about like 5 tips for why you should drink Smart Water, and to not think about what I want you to know, what I want you to know about this product, this offer, about the person making it. This isn't the world's best example, but to think about, what do I really want you to understand? How can I build trust with you and this water, instead of around the concept of drinking water? So a lot of times I see in content, and this is a note I give clients all the time, is that they're giving great value, but they're giving value that's really selling the concept of their work, instead of selling value that is helping people, but also helping people understand why they specifically, and their offer specifically, is the thing that someone needs to take the next step with. Let me know if this is making sense. And the reason for this, and I'll give some tangible examples there, but the outside of water bottles. But the reason for this, again, we want to think about, what are objections about? One of the reasons people have objections is that they just literally don't get why they should buy from you, why your offer or product is something they want to spend money on, when they're looking at making that decision, right? Do I want this? Do I not want this? And making a decision to move towards what it is they want. In their brain, they're like, well, but I don't really get why. I get the concept of why I should drink water, but I don't know why I should spend extra money to buy Smart Water. Like, why don't I just buy another bottle of water? And so that is an objection in someone's mind. Really great, easy way to start overcoming this objection ahead of time, before you ever get on the phone with someone, is to teach people what you want them to know about you and your work, that trust you want them to build with your offer, before they ever get on the phone with you through your content. So let me know if you have questions. I'll give some examples here. I think this is, if we think about things like social proof, I think this is where social proof really comes in, and thinking about this as social proof on crack. And what I mean by social proof on crack is, like, social proof is great, right? Like, we've all got testimonials. I think at this point, like, we're all doing screen grabs and sharing things like that, which can be great. But we often use those things when we're actually writing sales or promo posts, which is a great place for social proof. This is social proof on crack, in that what I want to invite you to think about is, how do you take some of these things, the trust you want to build with your offer, with you and your work, how do you teach people this through your content? And how do you do it in your content instead of only in your sales and promo posts? So a way you can do this, if you think about social proof in a testimonial, and you think about what a testimonial says, and you think about either results you personally have gotten or results your clients are getting, instead of waiting just for when you have that testimonial and you put it on your website, which is usually where those things hang out, or if you think about only sharing that when you're going to share like a promo post, thinking about how can you start to weave this in your content. Again, so you're overcoming those question marks in someone's head and teaching them why they should have that trust with your offer, why they want your offer, why they should have that trust with your offer specifically, instead of the concept of what you sell, over and over again. So by the time they get on the phone with you, by the time they get to your sales page, or by the time they join your challenge for your next launch, whatever that is you're selling, you've already done so much of that work where they don't really have those objections or question marks ahead of time. Another way that I think is really, and I know everyone here is going to have slightly different businesses and different offers, but I think another way that's really easy to do this is to specifically talk to and sell your offer, and to help people understand your work and what you bring to the table specifically in your content. I just see comments here. I'm on my phone, so I have to, it's like teeny tiny. Heather says, makes complete sense, but hard to think about how to put in content without sounding like I'm talking too much about me, finding the balance. Stephanie says it makes great sense, but that skill seems to elude me. Let me ask you both this. I'm totally going to put you on the spot here, but do you think that when I'm sharing content on lives, because I know you've been to more than one of my lives, do you think I only talk about myself? I'd be curious to hear what you think, Heather, and don't, you can't offend me. So like answer this honestly for everyone watching. I'm also noticing I'm very shiny. Stephanie, I'd be curious what part of this seems to elude you in terms of the skill set, but I'm curious from Heather if she answers that. I might be able to give some insight here, because what I think, and I'll just demonstrate here. Heather says, no, definitely not. Okay, great. So thank you for answering that and being honest, because I think this might help Stephanie's question and what you're saying here. What I've been doing, and I've been making sure intentionally in this live stream, is to walk my talk. I always want to walk my talk, but I've been intentionally doing what I'm talking about here. In terms of throughout this live stream so far, I've been talking about my work. I've been mentioning my one-on-one work. I've been mentioning how I support my clients. I've mentioned client results. Everything I'm talking about in terms of some of that trust I want to build with my work, and why not the concept of coaching and not the concept of why you should hire a one-on-one coach. I think in this atmosphere, at least, most of us understand the concept of coaching. I always want to teach people why I specifically am the coach you should hire if you're my people, why I think I'm the best investment for you and your business. And I want to teach people and build that trust up with my offer and help them understand it so it's not confusing, and help them understand the results that I deliver and that my clients are getting. So if you think back, I mentioned, might have been on the first time before we got kicked off, but I mentioned some client wins and how they were using what we've talked about here, even selling the concept of this idea, so you don't have an objection around this idea. I shared how clients are using this and the results they're getting. I always share, my personal results or being booked out. I'm mentioning my coaching work. I'm mentioning my clients. So Heather and Stephanie, just tell me if this is making sense. So maybe if you watch kind of, and even if you want to watch back, but as I'm talking through this more, I think you can see where it's not so much where I'm like, so you might not understand why you should hire me as a one-on-one coach, and let me overcome that objection. You don't trust the concept of this. And I'm being very silly here. I don't know who would actually talk that way, but instead what I'm doing is I'm just weaving, like through the content I'm already giving, I'm giving value here, right? I'm teaching you all how you can use this in your business. And what I'm doing is throughout that, I'm still weaving in some of the social proof. I'm still weaving in and making sure I'm including things that help really make it clear what it is I do in my work. I'm weaving in here where I'm speaking about, like, here's the value that I can deliver for you, but also here's how this is helping my clients get results. Here's how I'm specifically, so what I might say, as I was talking through this more, I might say, and I probably mentioned this earlier, one of the things I notice all the time when I'm editing my clients' content or I'm editing their copy is how often they're not owning their own results, or they're not sharing what they bring to the table, and how I'll encourage them to make sure that they are, owning that. Like for me, like that I have a degree in psychology, or owning that they have a booked out business, or owning that they're making X amount of money, or owning that they're bringing, a corporate career with 10 years of experience to the table, and weave that into their content. So if I say that, that's an example for you. That's value, that's content. But what I'm also doing is I'm helping build that trust to my offer, so that if you get on the phone with me, we've already kind of had this conversation here. It's not so confusing. Okay, let me see. Stephanie says, yes, it does. That makes sense. Yay. And Heather says, I do find it easier to do in a live training like this than I do in written posts. Okay, that makes sense. Here's a little hack that I love to give my clients, and they will probably say, yes, I make them do this all the time. What I would invite you to think about, Heather, and everyone here, I think this is such a fun exercise anyway. Go grab a Google document, go grab a note in your note page, but not somewhere where you're going to lose it. I looked over because that's where my notebook is. Go grab something out and write out what you want people to know about your offer, what you want people to know about your work. What are your personal results? What are some of your client results? And what, I'm trying to think of what else here, what you're bringing to the table. Write some of these things out and brain dump these out. And then what you can do when you're writing content is have this as a cheat sheet and just look through any piece of written content. And I'll do this myself sometimes when I'm editing content. I'll just look through and I'm like, where's one place that I can just weave in one thing here. So if you take a look at some of my content, sometimes I'll say something like, one thing I know for sure after having built a multi-six-figure business that's been booked out for years this is what I talked about in my podcast. One thing I know for sure after building a booked out multi-six-figure business that's been booked out for years is that your business success isn't hanging out in more information. It's on the other side of asking yourself better questions and having that space to have, those answers pulled out of you to get better results. So that's a piece of content, right? That's something I might share in copy. But what I've done is I've just weaved in. I've just tucked a little piece there that I want people to know about me and my work. So that way, if someone has an objection, like, who's this chick? Like, why would she tell me? Like, I have an objection. Like, why the hell would I listen to like a question? I want more information. I don't actually trust this offer. I don't even get this offer. I'm helping address that objection before they even listen to my podcast. We have objections about everything, right? I think we're always selling. I think that's something to remember. We gotta sell our free content as well. So I'm helping overcome that objection by giving some of that social proof in my content before anyone even listens to the podcast, before I've ever made a pitch, before they ever get on the phone with me. Okay, seeing the comments here. Let's see. Stephanie says, and I'm just the opposite. I think I can stick to the steps on a piece of paper rather than on a live. Stephanie, what I love about that and what I love about what you're saying, Heather, thank you both for being so transparent always on these and sharing that. I think it's just so nice to see, for one person, it's easy to do it one way. For one person, it's easy to do another way. What I would say for both of you is start with what's the low-hanging fruit? What's the path of least resistance? Stephanie, if it's easier for you to stick to that on paper, start with it on paper. Heather, if it's easier for you on a live, start with this on a live. I think the nice thing here is seeing most people aren't doing this. So if you can start to do this and even increase the amount you're doing this by 10%, you're already starting to help teach your people what you want them to know about you and your work and overcome those objections ahead of time and overcome them so they people just don't have those objections. So that way you're not having to do okay, now I gotta think about doing this on a live or think about doing this on when I'm writing. Instead, I would just say pick one to start. What's the easiest? Start there. Once that feels easy, you can start layering it into the other piece of content. For both of you, it'll be flip-flopped. Stephanie says, can you repeat those things to write out? Yes, but Stephanie, I totally was coming up with these on the spot, so now you're challenging my memory at the end of the day. Okay, some of the things I said to write out. I would write out, what do you want people to know about your offer? What do you want people to know about your offer? And what I would remind people here when we're thinking about things like, what do we want people to know about our offer? And when we're trying to build trust with an offer, really important here, and I say this because this is a note that I give clients when I'm looking at their copy a lot, is thinking about not selling the concept of your offer, but really selling you specifically, what you bring to the table. What is specific about the offer? What's the problem it's solving? What are the benefits it's delivering? So what do you want people to know about your offer? What do you want people to know about what you bring to the table? Why should someone hire you, essentially? What results have you personally achieved? What background do you bring to the table? What results are your clients getting? And just use this as a cheat sheet. This isn't a quiz. This isn't I know mindset stuff can come up around this. This isn't whatever any of your answers are here. Challenge yourself to just keep digging where it's if I'm thinking about someone's objection around, I don't trust what you have to sell. I don't get what you have to sell. I don't want what you have to sell. How can you start to overcome that and teach that in your content? And I think another question you can ask yourself is, has anyone ever told you on a call before? I don't really get what this is, or I don't get why this would be for me. Or have you had that in email exchange? Think about what are the things people might not even understand about what it is you sell, so you can start to speak to that. I know I have quite a few clients who are in more of the spiritual world, the spiritual realm, and that can be a little more nebulous in terms of describing what it is you do. And so this is something we work a lot in their content, because sometimes the challenge, the objection is, I don't get what you do. It sounds great, but I don't really get what you do. How's this going to help me? And so that's something we want, if that's the objection, and that's the part that is messing with that trust, that's something that we want to start bringing to content ahead of time, because it's going to make it so much easier on the back end of the sales process. Heather says, what do you suggest if you don't have too many client stories to share or client success that isn't applicable to a newer offer? So what I love about this, Heather, I think what we have to remember for all of us, if we're selling something, even if it's a new offer, even if you're new to business, if you're coming from a place of integrity, which I know everyone here is, you're selling something because you believe in it, which means you probably have some experience with what it is you're selling, even if it's not in that specific offer. And so I would invite you to think outside the box, and either to use yourself as your own best case study, or to think about other experience you're bringing to the table that is why you're making this offer. I mean, I'll use like this is kind of I don't know if this is the best example, but maybe this will land for some of you. When, if you think about a lot of my content, for any of you who like know my content at all, I talk about my acting experience a lot. And I talk about my acting experience. One of the things I like to remind people is that was my first, like I acted for 10 years. There's a lot that I will sell in terms of like what that has taught me and allows me to help my clients in terms of mindset, but also from a marketing and sales perspective, because acting, while I was not coaching in this way or running a business in this way, I was running a small business that was literally marketing and selling myself. I'll talk about that from my bar experience. I will talk about that. I worked in advertising before, in sales essentially, where we repped directors. I'll talk about that in my content because those are really applicable skills that I have taken into my coaching. I'll talk about my psychology background. So Heather, I don't know if that's helpful, but I think sometimes we can think outside of like literally the offer, like, why are you even selling this? Why are you so fired up about what you sell? What do you believe in this so much? What do you want people to know? That like, this is why I believe in this offer. All of you are bringing something like that, whether it's directly from your business or something from a past experience to the table. Include that in your content, weave it into your content. You don't have, I mean, you can write a post just about like, here's why I'm thebomb.com. I would love it if you did share it in my group, but you can also like just weave this in subtly through regular content, right? We can talk about a bottle of water, and instead of selling the concept of water, you should drink water because it hydrates you. You should drink water because your body is mostly water, and you'll get brain fry if you don't drink enough water, right? We could talk just about the concept of water, and that would be a piece of value content. Or we could help overcome the objection someone might have of, that's an expensive bottle of water, more expensive than other water. Why should I buy this? I don't really get or trust this offer. We can overcome that by teaching people what we want them to know about smart water. I'm totally making this up. I have no fucking idea if this is true. But if I was, let's say smart water is glacier fed. I do know there's electrolytes in here. I might talk about how like the special process we use to include electrolytes, and how when people drink smart water, their skin glows and how they feel so much better. And they report it makes them wake up with less of a hangover after drinking the night, specifically when they drink this water. Totally making things up here. But I might really want to sell more than the concept of water, and more than, I might still say water hydrates you, right? Water does all of these things. Our water specifically. That's why we infuse our water with electrolytes and glacier-fed minerals, whatever goes into water, right? We might want to just include those details, because then you're starting to teach someone, not just go drink a glass of fucking water, but go spend a little bit more money. Like, don't have an objection anymore. Go spend a little bit more money and drink the smart water. Okay, let's see here. Got it. Yes. Is it Preshi? Am I pronouncing your name correctly? That feels important. I want to make sure I got your name correctly. Heather says, yes, it's helpful. I have tons of corporate and business experience. What I don't talk about. And then I've got the laughing faces for, I think, my infomercial on smart water. Y'all, I have like a weird, this is such a side tangent. My clients will tell you this. I like have a weird love and obsession for like, give me anything. And I just like want to write copy on it and like riff on it. And look, this is a good example. See, I do this without even realizing it. This is me walking, like mirroring what I'm talking about. I'm demonstrating value. Like, I'm giving y'all value. We're talking about how to use your content to overcome objections and how to sell in your content. And what I'm doing here is I'm telling you how I support my clients. One of the things I love to do with them is help them on the spot write copy or figure out how to connect the dots so they can bring these to the table and like sell their bottle of water really organically in a way that makes sense. It's something I love to do. Like, it makes my creative brain so happy, and it comes really easily to me. And so this is me sharing what we're talking about, but just so you can see like big picture, this is me also demonstrating exactly what we're talking about. So if you're starting to wonder like, well, like, why would a business coach help me? Like, does she just talk about mindset and woo stuff all the time? I don't really get what Kim does. As I'm sharing this, I'm helping overcome that objection. I'm helping build trust with the offer, because you're starting to understand that a little bit more, even if I'm just like subtly putting it in there. Preshi says almost. Think of it as precious. It's short for it. LOL. Oh, that's so beautiful. Okay, so precious. So it would be like Preshi maybe. Preshi. I'm hoping that's correct. I feel like names are very, very important. I don't feel like they are. I know that they are. My battery is dying. No, y'all, all the country things. We're gonna plug this in while, yes, okay, good, I got that correct. Okay, I'm just gonna plug us in here, and then y'all let me know if you have other questions on This is like the funniest live I've ever done in terms of tech. If you have questions on that one, and let's dive into the other part to this, and then I have the other secret I want to share with you. So just the other piece here. So we talked a lot about building that trust. If we think about objections being because someone doesn't trust your offer or you, or because they don't trust themselves, we just talked a lot about how are you going to build some of that trust with your offer and you to overcome that objection and why someone might say no in your content. So the other piece of this is building trust with themselves, especially for those of you who are selling high ticket offers and selling service as opposed to more on the done for you side of things, or, you know, more of a product like with water. I think we have to remember the other reason people have objections is often because they don't trust themselves. I don't have to trust myself to buy a bottle of water, right? I just need to trust that this is worth the, I don't know, $1.99 or whatever this costs in the city. If I'm going to invest in a high ticket offer, like coaching, like mentoring, like any sort of like a OBM, a virtual assistant, something where it's not done for you, and more of that, like part of this is going to rely on me, not just handing over a chunk of money, but me showing up to get those results, which a lot of you in this space, I know not everyone here, but I know I've got a lot of therapists and coaches. I think this is true for my lawyers and people like that as well, where you're not just selling like, if I do these things well, you're going to be okay. There's that back and forth. That person's trust with themselves is a really big part of the buying decision or the decision-making process, and it's a really big part of where objections come from. So I think this is really helpful to remember and to think about when you're creating that content. How can you start to help people build trust with themselves and see that they can trust themselves to invest through your offer? So I'm going to repeat that because I think this is going to be different for everyone, and this is something I really want you to think about because this can be so powerful. If you know people might not be trusting themselves, why might they not be trusting themselves? And how can you, in your content, help people start to trust themselves more and trust themselves to invest through you and your offer? I think this is such a powerful way to overcome an objection. I don't love the phrase overcome, but you get what I'm saying. To basically stop an objection before it ever happens, so that when someone gets on the phone with you, that trust piece has already been addressed. They've already been consuming your content. You've already been helping them build trust around the idea of investing in themselves, that they can trust themselves to show up for the investment in your work. Hopefully that one makes sense. I think that one's a little more challenging. I would let that one, if it were me, I would let that one marinate and just think, can I challenge myself to write a piece of content around this, or to think about this and include this in my content? If you're thinking about content more in terms of like sales emails or having a launch or whatever like that, can you think about including this in some of that sales copy? Right, just checking, no comments there. Let me know if that one makes sense. I want to jump on to the other one here because I'm just realizing, y'all, I could like talk about this literally forever, but with our tech fail as well, we've been chatting for a while. Heather says, can you give an example? So in terms of trusting yourself, yeah, I'll absolutely give an example and writing something around that. So this is something I would do, like even if we were on the phone and someone had an objection that was more around trusting themselves, I think this can be a helpful way to think about how to write a piece of content about this. I might either address like what I think is coming up for someone, which is usually something around fear. Or I might address something like, so maybe they don't trust themselves because, for example, with my work, a lot of people have invested a ton of money in courses before, and nothing wrong with courses, but there's a difference between courses and one-on-one work. And they're like, I've already spent all this money. I didn't finish the course, and I already spent $2,000 on this course and $2,000 on this course, and I'm already this much in the hole. And not only did I not finish them, but I didn't get the money back from them. I don't really trust myself now to invest in one-on-one coaching. Like, how do I know this is going to be different? How do I know I'm going to show up for it if I didn't even finish that course? Right? I think that's just an example, a general example, especially for us in the one-on-one coaching space, and that's very, very normal. And so that's something I might want to write a piece of content around to address how, like, to normalize that first and foremost, and to like lovingly call out that person who's like, I am freaking terrified because I've already dumped this much into my business and I'm still not getting the results I want, or I never finished that course. Like, if that's you, I hear you. And here's the thing, like, this is why one-on-one coaching is so different. We're not hating on courses, but courses have a completion rate of something like 4%. Okay, I'm hating on courses a little bit. I love courses, but the course model is very broken in our industry. That's why I gave away a free sales course to you all, because I know there's nothing like the power of one-on-one coaching to help facilitate transformation. I know there's nothing like personalized one-on-one support like I can give all of this away for free. And I also know it's not the same thing as if we have a one-on-one call and I can pull this out of you and I can help you see your blind spots and I can help you connect the dots and I can help you get out of your own way because you're so scared to show up and share this thing, or because you don't see how these two disparate pieces actually come together and give you an answer. I know how different that is from a course that's just giving you information. I know I'm an excellent coach and I can ask those questions and help people get those answers, have those transformations, stay in the game when they want to quit to show up and get those results. I would want to write a piece of content that basically says all of that, where it's like, here is the objection you have. This is why I know you're not trusting yourself. Here's why here's why you can trust yourself with me. Here's why you can be safe with me. Heather, I'm like riffing on the spot, so let me know if that makes sense, if that answers your question. Sometimes I get off on my riffs and rants, so I want to make sure that answers your question and that's an example that makes sense for y'all. So the other secret, I'll wait till Heather replies back, but I'll start in on the other secret here. So the other secret and the other way you can use your content really effectively to navigate someone's objection, to handle it before they ever get on the phone with you or before they ever get to your sales page, is to, and this is a little bit what we just did here with the trust piece, but to really get clear and think about what are those common objections you hear from people. This does require sometimes a little market research or having some calls or putting yourself into the mindset, right? Like I think one of the great things as service providers when we're in the selling side, like part of our job is to like get out of our own head and really put ourselves into the shoes of our people. I don't always love the term ideal client, but you guys know what I mean when I say ideal client. Like, what are our people thinking? What's coming up for them? Either because you've talked to them and you know this because they've told you, like, here are my objections, or because you can put yourself, you're just like, I have either been this person myself, or I know this person. What are those objections that are coming up for them? And then what I want to invite you to think about is what's underneath that objection. This is like coaching 101, right? Like it's never the surface level thing. It's always the thing under the thing. That's the thing with objections. Rarely is it what someone's presenting with. That's like the symptom, right? If we think about it, like someone's sick and goes to the doctor and they have symptoms and then they use those symptoms to find out what's really going on. It's the same thing when someone has an objection, especially if we think about selling from this landscape of it's my job to help someone get clear on what it is they want and then to make that decision to move towards it. If someone's saying they want what you have to offer and we're going to try to help someone get clear to move towards it and they're giving an objection, usually whatever that objection is, it's like it's the thing that's covering up the fear or the story that like is keeping them from making that decision to move forward. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm like trying to cram a lot of information into this live, so hopefully that makes sense for you. What I would say is then that's the content you want to start speaking to. That's what you want to start speaking to in your content and addressing. How can you address, like, yes, the surface level objection. Hey, I can't afford it. I don't have the time. Whatever that is, like whatever that common objection you hear from your people, how can you start to call that out in your content and like basically call BS in it in a lovely way, but like overcome that. But also how can you be smart and think like, what's the thing under the thing for my people? Like the best compliment you can get in your content is when people say like, I feel like you're a mind reader. I feel like you just read my journal. I feel like you just like got into my brain. How can you think about like what's actually going on for someone and write some content to either address it or to support someone with what's going on there? So sometimes like what's nice about content is, and what's nice about addressing this ahead of time is sometimes you can give some people some tips and tools and resources to overcome that thing under the thing. You know what I'm talking about? So like if, let's say it's time. Let's say time is the thing. Like if someone's saying they don't have the time, like I'd say 99% of the time, it's really not about the time, right? It's about something else. So if you can find out what that is, like it just allows you to speak to that, have someone feel heard and understood, maybe have them create some awareness around that, but also you can give people in your content, like that's the value you can provide. Can you give them some tips and tools around this? All right, let me see comments here. And, Stephanie says, I just loved that riff. Oh, thank you, Stephanie. Heather says, yes, an example I can start to play with. Yay. Okay, I'm glad that landed for you, Heather. Stephanie says, I'm doing a live visioning session with someone in my group on Thursday, so I'll definitely write my notes with all of this in the structure. Yay. I love that. I love that. I think what's so fun if you're doing this live, that's so great. It's so meta, right? Like you're going to get to bring this into your content. And then what I'd offer is like after, Stephanie, after you do this, because I know you said it's harder for you. I think you said it's easier for you in written and harder in a live. So you'll have those notes, but then take those and you can use them in written content as well. I think I got that the right way. I think Heather was the one who said it was easier for her in live. So if you write all those notes out, feel free to repurpose that and put that into your group as well in some content. So I'm glad this is making sense for you all. I'm also glad you all are going to implement this. Nothing makes me happier than when I hear you all take this and implement it. And I just knocked over the smart water bottle. Another reason to buy the smart water bottle, they come with an extra special cap that when you knock it over, it doesn't spill all over the floor. Totally kidding here. Stephanie says, yes, you were right. Heather says, you got it the right way. Yay. Okay, memory is serving me. It makes me so happy to hear from y'all when you take what we've talked about here and implement it. I think that's the game changer in business always, right? It's one thing to hear information. It's another to take that and then apply it to your own business and figure out, I always want to say here, do not do things the way I do them. Take these concepts, take these ideas, take the ways I'm thinking about it, and then apply it to your own business, make it your own, and then put it into action. That's where the results come from. So it makes me so happy to hear you are taking action on this. And I love when I hear back from some of you that you've gotten results from that. It literally makes my heart sing. I'm getting the laughing faces. I swear I've got I think it's the tech thing today. So it's got me all loopy. Heather says, Kim, this is great. Really helpful. I'm so happy to hear it. I am going to, before we run out of time here, because it's almost, y'all have been hanging out with me for an hour. Let me know if you have any questions about writing content about directly addressing the objection. I think that one's a little more clear and something we hear about a lot, but I want to invite everyone just to put a button on that one. Is, again, to really think about what are those objections my people have and how can I just call this out and speak to it in content, whether it's directly or it's a little more subtly because you're weaving it in. And I would invite everyone to think about really thinking about just including this in your content marketing strategy. So I think it's easy to hear something like this and to do it once in a while. And I would think about how can I be including this regularly in my content, and think about this as a part of providing that value. And think about this again as if we think about, just to put a button on what we were talking about at the beginning of the first video, if we think about sales as a process and not just as that point of transaction when you're like, hey, do you want to buy? And if we think about it as our job is to help someone get clear on what it is they want and then to make that decision towards what it is they want, and we're thinking about it as a process, your content is such a valuable part of not just providing obviously value, but helping someone understand what it is they want when it comes to your work and to be able to make that decision. So keeping that part in mind when you're thinking about content, I think it can help put you into the mindset of my content. Yes, it is value, and yes, it's relationship building, and relationships at the end of the day, strategy aside, that's where the money in your business is found. And you can be really strategic and have a